I enlisted on 17th of February, 1948. I was 17, and before the war broke out in Korea, I was a military policeman. I had 6 months left to do, and I went on a 15-day furlough. When I came back, I found out I was on orders for Korea. Yeah, we all thought it was done with. You couldn't find a North Korean if you put an ad in the paper. The only thing we were running into was Chinese. And the Chinese, well, they overwhelmed us. They were on the hill before we even knew they were there. And we did our best to fight them off. And when morning came, the situation looked pretty grim. We had already found out that our regimental commander 5 miles behind us in his headquarters was overrun by the Chinese, and him and his jeep driver had been killed. Here is a map of North Korea. Here's the Fusan Reservoir, here's the Chosin Reservoir. Now these red arrows indicate how the Chinese came in and totally surrounded us there. Now the bad part of the whole evacuation from the reservoir is there was only one road out, and the Chinese that had swept in had control of this road all the way up to Kodo-Ray. Now Colonel Don Faith, the only officer left with any authority, took over the whole operation. In fact, they called it Operation Don Faith, or Faith's Task Force. And he got us together. We put our wounded on trucks and started to go south to Kodo-Ray and Haegaru. We had two problems. We had the problem with the Chinese, and we had problems with the weather. The temperatures were cold. I think the weather was just as bad as battling the Chinese. And when it would get so cold, you couldn't sleep. If you fell asleep, you could freeze to death. In fact, one time coming out of the Chosin, I laid down on the road, and I woke up, I had 6 inches of snow on my face. I thought I was in heaven. It was unbelievable. Actually, fighting the Chinese gave you the energy to move your body more. Because when we weren't fighting them, we seemed to be dragging our rear end and shuffling along the road and probably feeling sorry for ourselves. So I hate to say this, other veterans might find this offensive, but fighting the Chinese kept you running and moving around. It kept you warm. That's all I can say about that part. We were told to remove the wounded because the Chinese weren't really firing at us. They were firing at the trucks, trying to hit the gas tanks to ignite the trucks. And what I did is I crawled through the cab of the truck as I seen the driver get out, and my head come up into this turret, and in front of me was this 30 caliber machine gun. I looked down in the box. It looked like a reasonable amount of ammunition I could use up, and I trained it on these Chinese laundrymen and took quite a few of them out. But the real hero at the Chosin Reservoir was this Colonel Don Carlos Faith. And 2 miles before we get out of the reservoir, he got killed. And if it wasn't for him, none of us would have got out. This is what I would say is my personal scrapbook. I started this in 1998 after I joined the 31st Infantry Association. This is our platoon right after the reservoir. I believe there's only 27 of us here. This is me. This is PFC Stapleton. This is Corporal Adams. And this is Corporal Blanken. He was my BAR man. We all stuck together up until June 9th of '51. And on that day, my squad was all killed and wounded in action. A lot of times when I'm home alone, and if it's raining outside and I can't do anything, I'll get my tape recorder, and in fact I got one tape here where I take the sound battle background and the movie Patton, and while making the story on tape of what happened, I would introduce the combat background into the story, you know.
We found dead and wounded Chinese all over the place. It was very sad. Most of their wounds were head wounds.
I just wondered what it would sound like while I was describing a story to have background of artillery fire and machine gun fire, and I joined both old movies together with the background, and it came out real good.
Once the attack started, he became another Sergeant York. He took on the entire Chinese army. He shot Chinese, he bayoneted Chinese, and he picked up Chinese grenades and threw them right back at the enemy. Another soldier told me that he had even killed 7 Chinese with an entrenching tool. An amazing feat.
By June of 1951, we were professionals. And in about 30 minutes, we found out that we weren't as professional as we thought we were. Because at one time, I stopped at the base of a tree that was destroyed by artillery. And I looked around, and I seen our guys falling like flies. And we lost a little confidence there. But when we went up on that hill, we were going to go up there and kick some ass. And we found out we got our ass kicked. So you don't want to get overconfident. You got dust on your hands.
Sadly, I was the only one left in my squad that I had served with at the Chosin Reservoir. The others had either been killed or wounded and had been evacuated.